My dog came home with an alien girl, and I was surprised by his affection for her. Ethan Cross had always dreamed of the stars. As a child, he would lie in the backyard of his small Earth home, staring at the night sky and imagining what lay beyond the distant pinpricks of light. Every evening, he imagined himself piloting a sleek spacecraft, discovering new worlds and meeting beings unlike any humans had ever seen. Now, at 34, his dreams had finally become reality. He was an astronaut, a member of the first human diplomatic mission to the distant planet Zithera. The journey to Zithera had been long but smooth. Ethan had spent months aboard the Starship Odyssey, traveling faster than any human had before, gliding past shimmering nebulae and fields of stars. The ship's artificial intelligence, named Lyra, had kept him company, guiding him through the void with calm efficiency. But even the advanced technology and months of training could not prepare him for the moment he would first set foot on the alien planet. Zithera was unlike anything Ethan had ever imagined. The planet's surface glowed with vibrant colors, shifting from deep emerald green to sparkling turquoise. Its cities floated in the sky, suspended by strange energy fields that defied human understanding. Rivers of liquid light flowed through the air, forming patterns that danced in harmony with the wind. Ethan stepped out of the landing craft and felt a wave of awe wash over him. He was walking in a dream. The Zitherans were even more extraordinary. Towering and elegant, they moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. Their skin shimmered with subtle iridescence, and their eyes reflected the colors of their environment. Ethan noticed that they communicated not only through speech, but also through subtle gestures and glowing patterns that shifted across their skin. He realized that every movement and color conveyed meaning, a combination of language and emotion woven together. At the heart of the capital floated the Grand Palace, an immense structure made of materials that seemed liquid in texture, but solid to the touch. Ethan had been briefed that the palace was not only a residence, but also the center of government. And at the very center of the palace lived the queen, Liara, ruler of Zithera. Ethan's mission was simple in theory: greet the Zitherans, establish diplomatic relations, and learn about their culture. In practice, it was far more complicated. As he was led through the palace's floating corridors by a Zitheran guide named Vera, Ethan struggled to keep up. Every step revealed wonders he could hardly process. Walls that rippled like water, staircases that bent at impossible angles, and gardens suspended in midair, where alien flowers bloomed in slow motion, releasing clouds of glowing pollen. "Stay calm," Vera said, her voice musical but firm. "The ceremony is a great honor. You must participate fully." Ethan nodded, though he had no idea what the ceremony entailed. The guide led him to a grand chamber where dozens of Zitherans had gathered. At the far end stood Liara herself, regal and luminous, her presence commanding attention without effort. Ethan felt his heart race. She was beautiful beyond words, and her gaze seemed to pierce through him. Vera explained that the ceremony was a traditional greeting for foreign dignitaries, a symbolic gesture that expressed unity and trust. Ethan assumed it would be similar to a handshake or a formal bow. He had practiced countless gestures for first contact situations, rehearsing polite movements and diplomatic phrases, but he had not practiced what Zitheran culture truly required. Liara approached, and the room fell silent. She extended her hand, and Ethan, eager to show respect, mimicked her gesture. A series of glowing symbols erupted around them, swirling in the air like ribbons of light. The Zitherans gasped and whispered among themselves. Ethan's stomach dropped. Something had gone wrong. Vera's eyes widened. You have performed the binding," she whispered urgently. "You have completed the marriage ritual." Ethan froze. "Marriage? I didn't." "It is done," Vera said, her tone gentle but firm. "There is no turning back. You are now the consort of Queen Liara." The room erupted in applause and cheers. Ethan's face turned bright red. He tried to protest, but the words seemed foolish in the presence of a queen and her court. Liara smiled, a mixture of amusement and curiosity in her eyes. She stepped closer and spoke in the musical language of her people. Lyra, the AI translator, conveyed the words to him. Do not worry, human. The binding is a sacred tradition, but it is also a choice made by the heart. It seems your heart has been chosen. Ethan felt a strange mix of panic and fascination. He had not expected to be chosen for anything, let alone married to an alien queen. Yet, as he looked into Liara's eyes, he realized there was no anger, only interest. The following days were a whirlwind. Ethan learned that his role as Queen's consort was more ceremonial than anything else, but it carried enormous responsibility. He would be expected to attend meetings, offer advice, and participate in court events. Every action he took would be observed by both Zitharans and humans. He also discovered that the marriage was not just symbolic. The binding created a subtle connection between him and Liara, a faint energy link that allowed them to sense each other's emotions. It was disorienting at first. He could feel her curiosity, amusement, and occasional impatience as if they were his own feelings. But over time, he began to understand the rhythm of their connection, learning to navigate it with care and respect. Ethan's first challenge came during a council meeting. Zitharan leaders debated a complex issue involving energy distribution across their floating cities. Humans would have considered it a technical problem, solvable with logic and data. The Zitharans approached it as a matter of balance and harmony, guided by intuition and emotion. Ethan listened carefully, then offered a suggestion based on Earth's principles of resource management. To his surprise, the council responded positively. They had not expected a human to contribute meaningfully, yet Ethan's simple, practical approach offered a fresh perspective. Liara's eyes glowed softly, a sign of approval. Ethan felt a surge of pride. Perhaps humanity had a place here after all. Outside of the palace, Ethan explored Zithara's cities, accompanied by Vera and a small team of translators. He marveled at the innovations, transportation networks that used gravitational fields, energy sources derived from the planet's unique mineral composition, and educational systems that combined art, science, and emotional intelligence. Everywhere he went, Zitharans were curious about him. They asked questions about Earth, about human habits, and about the strange ways humans solved problems. Ethan shared stories of Earth with them, how humans built cities, how they explored the oceans, and how they celebrated festivals. He realized that, despite the vast differences between the species, there was a common thread: curiosity, creativity, and the desire to connect. Yet not everything was easy. Some Zitharans were skeptical of a human in such an important position. Whispers followed him in corridors, and subtle tests were placed in his path. Ethan had to learn quickly to read the alien expressions and gestures, to understand when a smile was genuine and when a polite nod masked doubt. It was exhausting, but he met each challenge with determination, relying on the very human traits that had brought him this far: adaptability, courage, and a willingness to learn. One evening, Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing rivers of Zithara. The twin moons rose in the sky, casting silver light across the floating cities. Liara joined him, her presence quiet but reassuring. She did not speak at first, allowing the two of them to simply exist in shared silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice gentle. You are far from home, human, and yet you have faced our world with open eyes and an open heart. That is rare even among my people. Ethan smiled, though he felt a pang of homesickness. I never imagined my first contact with aliens would end like this, but I'm learning. I want to understand your world and I want to help. Liara's eyes glimmered with approval. Then perhaps this binding is not an accident but a beginning. Your journey on Zithara is just starting. As the stars shimmered above them, Ethan realized the truth of her words. His life had changed in ways he could never have predicted. He had arrived as an explorer, a visitor from Earth, unprepared for the complexities of an alien court. Now he was a participant in something far greater, a bridge between worlds, a human whose presence could alter the course of an entire civilization. And so, with a mixture of wonder and trepidation, Ethan Cross stepped fully into his new life. The alien queen by his side, he would face the challenges of a strange and beautiful world, discovering not only the mysteries of Xithra, but also the extraordinary potential of humanity itself. Life in the floating palace of Xithra was far from ordinary. Every morning, Ethan Cross woke to the soft glow of the twin suns reflecting off the city's shimmering surfaces. The palace, suspended in midair by the planet's unique energy fields, offered views unlike anything on Earth. Rivers of light flowed beneath the city, and bridges of pure energy-connected towers that seemed to touch the sky. Ethan often paused at the balcony to simply marvel at the alien beauty surrounding him. His first few days were filled with introductions. He met scholars, artists, engineers, and diplomats from Xithra. Each was curious about the human who had accidentally become their queen's consort. While Ethan had initially feared they would dismiss him, he quickly realized that his presence sparked fascination. Xitharans valued intelligence, creativity, and emotional awareness, and his human perspective was a novelty. One of the first to approach him was Terran, a Xitharan engineer. Terran had 4 arms and skin that shifted color with his mood, currently a soft green indicating cautious curiosity. "I've heard you can solve problems differently," Terran said, his voice melodic but layered with subtle inflections that Lyra translated. "We are interested in seeing your approach," Ethan nodded, eager to contribute. "I'll do my best. Humans rely a lot on trial and error and creativity. Sometimes seeing a problem from a different angle helps." Terran's eyes shimmered with intrigue. "Good. We will start tomorrow with a project involving the floating bridges. They sometimes become unstable in high wind currents." The next day, Ethan walked alongside Terran across the energy bridges. He watched the streams of glowing particles that formed the structure, marveling at the complexity. With Terran's guidance, Ethan suggested a subtle adjustment to the bridge's stabilizing nodes, a method inspired by Earth's suspension bridges. Terran tested it, and to everyone's delight, the bridge became more stable. The engineer's skin glowed a brighter, warmer hue, a Xitharan sign of approval. "You are different," Terran said, still adjusting the nodes. "Not in strength or speed, but in perspective. That is rare, even for a member of the council." Ethan smiled, feeling a surge of pride. For the first time, he realized that humans might not be physically superior, but their adaptability and creativity had value even on an alien world. Beyond the palace, Ethan explored the floating gardens and marketplaces. Xitharan culture fascinated him. Music and art were not merely forms of entertainment, but integrated into daily life and communication. Glowing patterns in the air conveyed emotions, ideas, and even mathematical formulas. Humans had nothing quite like it. He spent hours learning how to interpret the symbols, laughing at his early mistakes when he misread a simple greeting as a joke. Liara often accompanied him, silently observing as he adapted to their world. She had a curious way of teaching without teaching, letting him experience Xithra rather than explaining it. Ethan noticed the subtle energy link between them growing stronger. He could sense her amusement when he made a mistake and her quiet approval when he solved a problem. Their connection became a source of comfort, though he sometimes felt exposed, as if she could read every thought and emotion. One evening, Ethan was invited to a formal dinner with the council. The event was dazzling. Tables floated in midair, hovering over a garden of luminescent flowers. Foods shimmered in unusual colors, and aromas filled the air with unfamiliar but pleasant fragrances. Ethan struggled at first to eat with the correct gestures, bowing and moving his hands in ways that conveyed respect. He worried that a mistake could offend, but Liara guided him subtly, and soon he was navigating the ceremony with surprising ease. During the dinner, the council discussed trade agreements with nearby star systems. Ethan offered suggestions based on Earth's history of resource sharing and mutual benefit. His ideas were simple but effective: transparency, cooperation, and contingency planning. The Zitherans listened intently, nodding at his words. By the end of the evening, the council had adopted several of his suggestions. "You are remarkable," Liara whispered later as they walked along the floating terraces. "I expected a visitor. I did not expect a partner who could contribute so meaningfully." Ethan laughed softly, feeling both proud and humbled. "I'm just trying to learn and help. I don't want to disappoint you or your people." "You have already surpassed expectations," she said. "And that is the beauty of humans. You are not constrained by tradition. You think in ways that surprise even the most advanced minds." Days turned into weeks. Ethan's routine became a delicate balance of learning, contributing, and adapting. He attended council meetings, assisted engineers, and joined cultural events. Everywhere he went, humans, creativity, and problem-solving abilities impressed the Zitherans. His knowledge of Earth's technology, history, and society offered fresh insights. Simple solutions that seemed ordinary on Earth often sparked new ideas for the aliens. However, adapting was not without challenges. Some Zitherans remained skeptical. A council member named Myrle subtly questioned his suggestions during meetings, challenging him with complex hypothetical scenarios. Ethan learned to respond thoughtfully, relying on logic, collaboration, and a calm demeanor. Slowly, even Myrle began to acknowledge the value of his human perspective. One afternoon, Ethan was called to the palace's observation tower. There, Liara showed him Zithara's energy network, the system that powered their floating cities. The network was intricate and delicate, relying on natural planetary energy flows amplified by technology. "There is a risk," Liara explained. "Sometimes the energy pulses can destabilize if not monitored carefully. A human mind might see it differently." Ethan studied the network, imagining ways Earth engineers would approach it. He suggested minor adjustments to the energy nodes, implementing a method similar to load balancing used in human power grids. Liara's eyes glowed warmly as the system stabilized. "You see patterns that are unexpected," she said. "This is why I value your presence." Ethan began to feel more confident. He realized that his role as consort was not just ceremonial, it had real impact. His perspective, ingenuity, and ability to learn quickly made him a bridge between human and Zitharan knowledge. Social interactions were another challenge. Zitharans communicated a great deal through subtle gestures and color shifts in their skin. Misreading these signals could lead to misunderstandings. Ethan often relied on Liara and Vera to guide him, but over time, he began to intuitively understand the meanings. He found that humans' capacity for empathy helped him adapt more quickly than he expected. Despite the differences, he began to notice similarities. Zitharans valued family, creativity, and the pursuit of knowledge, values that resonated with him deeply. He shared stories of Earth, describing music, festivals, and traditions. In return, Zitharans shared tales of their history, painting vivid pictures of wars averted through diplomacy and inventions that shaped their civilization. Ethan felt a growing connection, not only to Liara, but to the planet itself. One day, while exploring the floating gardens, Ethan came across a group of Zitharan children. They were curious and fearless, approaching him with bright eyes and open questions. "Why do humans build so slowly?" one asked, pointing to a small human structure he had described. Sometimes we take our time to make sure things are strong, Ethan replied with a smile. We learn from mistakes and try again. The children laughed, fascinated by the concept of trial and error. Ethan realized that human resilience and creativity were contagious, capable of inspiring even the youngest members of an alien society. Evenings were often the quietest moments. Ethan and Liara would sit on the palace balcony, observing the glowing city below. The twin moons of Zithra cast a soft, silver light, reflecting off the energy bridges and floating towers. "You have changed my people's perception of humans," Liara said one evening. "Before you, we saw Earthlings as primitive explorers. Now we see possibility." Ethan felt a mix of pride and humility. "I just tried to do what humans do best, adapt and help. I didn't expect it to mean so much." "You underestimate the power of your species," she said softly. "Adaptability, courage, creativity. These are qualities even advanced civilizations admire. You remind us that evolution is not only physical but also intellectual and emotional." Life among the stars was still strange and demanding, but Ethan was beginning to feel at home. The palace no longer seemed intimidating. It was a place of learning, discovery, and connection. The accidental marriage, once a source of panic, had become a bridge between worlds, offering him a purpose he had never imagined. As weeks passed, Ethan understood that being Liara's consort was not just about rituals or appearances. It was about partnership, collaboration, and growth. He was learning to navigate a society far more advanced than Earth, contributing meaningfully and slowly earning the respect of those who had doubted him. By the end of the month, Ethan stood on the balcony once again, watching the rivers of light flow beneath the city. The twin suns had set and the moons glimmered. He felt a deep sense of wonder and responsibility. Humanity's journey in the stars had begun in earnest, and he was at the forefront, bridging the gap between worlds. The accidental marriage had turned his life upside down, but it had also opened doors to possibilities he had never dreamed of. With Liara by his side and the support of those who believed in him, Ethan Cross realized that humans were capable of remarkable things, if only they had the courage to step beyond their own world. And for the first time, he truly felt like a part of something greater than himself, a human among the stars, shaping the future of two worlds at once. Ethan Cross had grown more confident in his new role as consort of Queen Liara. His days were filled with learning, exploring, and assisting with the governance of Zithra. But with his growing influence came greater responsibility, and soon he would discover that diplomacy in a civilization as advanced as Zithra was far more complicated than he had imagined. The first sign of challenge came during a council meeting. The floating chamber was vast, filled with Zitharan leaders whose skin glowed with colors reflecting their thoughts and emotions. Ethan stood beside Liara, observing the subtle shifts as they debated resource allocation and energy distribution across the city. Myrle, the council member who had been skeptical from the beginning, spoke first. "The human suggestions are unusual. While innovative, we must consider tradition. Deviating from established methods may cause unforeseen consequences." Ethan took a deep breath. He had anticipated skepticism, but this felt different. Myrle's tone carried authority, and the other council members waited silently for his response. "Respectfully," Ethan began, his voice steady, "innovation does not mean abandoning tradition. It means building on what already works and improving it. Humans often face unexpected problems, and we've learned that combining creativity with observation leads to better outcomes. I believe the same principle can help Zithra thrive." Liara's eyes glimmered softly, showing her approval. She remained silent, letting Ethan speak, a silent vote of confidence that gave him courage. The council murmured among themselves. Some nodded in agreement, others shifted in thoughtful contemplation. Myrle's skin flickered a shade of amber, signaling curiosity rather than anger. For the first time, Ethan sensed that he was being taken seriously, not as a novelty, but as a contributor. Later that day, Liara approached him in the palace gardens. The floating flowers released gentle sparks of light as she moved among them, her presence serene. "You handled the council well," she said. "You are not just adapting, you are influencing. That is a rare gift." Ethan smiled, though he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. "I want to help. I want to understand their needs and offer solutions that make sense." "And you are succeeding," Liara replied. "Humans have a perspective we often overlook. Your ability to question, suggest, and think differently is valuable." The following week, a delegation from a nearby star system arrived in Xithra. They had heard of the human consort and wished to meet him, curious about Earth's people and their potential role in galactic affairs. Ethan accompanied Liara to the grand reception hall, where the visiting dignitaries were already waiting. The hall was breathtaking. Crystal platforms hovered in midair, supported by glowing energy fields. Light flowed along the walls, responding to the movements of those within. Ethan could feel the hum of energy beneath his feet, a subtle vibration that connected the entire structure. The alien delegates were polite but wary. They questioned Ethan on Earth's technology, philosophy, and governance. Ethan answered with honesty, emphasizing human adaptability and ingenuity. He spoke of collaboration, of learning from mistakes, and of finding solutions through cooperation rather than conflict. The delegates were intrigued. They had expected arrogance or fear, but instead found curiosity, humility, and confidence. By the end of the meeting, several expressed interest in forming alliances with Earth, seeing potential in humans they had not considered before. However, not all challenges were external. Within the palace, Ethan discovered tensions that tested his diplomatic skills. Some Xitharan nobles questioned the influence of a human consort. Rumors circulated that a human might upset the delicate balance of power. Whispers reached Ethan's ears as he navigated the corridors, subtle warnings and hints of doubt. One evening, as he walked with Vera through the palace gardens, she spoke gently. "Some will never accept a human in your position," she said. "They see tradition as absolute, but others will follow your example if you show patience, wisdom, and respect." Ethan nodded, understanding the truth in her words. He could not control others' perceptions, but he could act with integrity and intelligence. That, he decided, would be his strategy. His opportunity came sooner than expected. A crisis emerged when one of the floating districts experienced instability. The energy fields that kept the platforms aloft fluctuated, causing minor tremors and concern among the residents. Xitharan engineers worked tirelessly, but the problem required immediate solutions. Ethan was summoned to the council chamber, where the leaders debated options. Some proposed waiting for the engineers to stabilize the system using standard protocols. Others feared delays could worsen the situation. Ethan spoke calmly, explaining a hybrid solution that combined Xitharan energy manipulation techniques with a concept he had learned on Earth: feedback loops for monitoring and adjusting the energy nodes in real time. It was a simple idea, but it had never been applied in Xithra before. The council hesitated, then slowly agreed to implement Ethan's proposal. Together with Taryn and a team of engineers, he monitored the energy network. Slowly, the tremors subsided and the floating district stabilized. The council's reactions were a mixture of relief and admiration. Even Myrle's skin glowed in a soft blue, signaling acknowledgement of Ethan's contribution. "You have done more than adapt," Liara said later, her voice warm as they walked along the balcony. "You have solved problems in ways even we had not considered." Ethan felt a surge of pride but remained humble. "I only did what humans do best: observe, learn, and apply what we know. The real credit goes to your engineers and their willingness to try something new." Liara smiled. And that is why humans and Zitherans can achieve great things together. You remind us that tradition can coexist with innovation. In the weeks that followed, Ethan continued to face subtle challenges. He mediated disputes between council members, offered creative solutions to technical problems, and learned to navigate the intricate social rituals of Zither diplomacy. Each success built trust, but each misstep reminded him of how different this world was. One particularly delicate situation involved a trade negotiation between Zithra and another advanced planet. The visiting diplomats were polite but firm, expecting Zithra to follow established procedures. Ethan suggested a compromise that balanced both tradition and innovation, a strategy that relied on human negotiation principles, emphasizing collaboration and mutual benefit. The result was a successful agreement that strengthened interstellar relations. Zitherans praised Ethan's insight, and the visiting diplomats were impressed by his ability to understand both human and alien perspectives. Despite the growing respect, Ethan never forgot that he was still learning. Every day brought new lessons in culture, strategy, and communication. He studied the subtle signals of Zither speech, learned to interpret glowing patterns in the skin as expressions of emotion or intent, and adapted to the rhythms of their society. Beyond the political and technical challenges, Ethan also experienced the beauty of Zither life. He attended art exhibitions where the walls themselves became canvases of flowing color and movement. He watched performances where emotions were amplified by bioluminescent displays, telling stories that required no words. He explored floating gardens that shifted with the seasons, and visited observatories that offered views of distant galaxies with a clarity humans had never experienced on Earth. Through it all, Liara remained a constant guide and companion. She challenged him, encouraged him, and occasionally teased him when he misunderstood a cultural nuance. Their energy link grew stronger, allowing them to communicate silently in moments of need. Ethan began to feel that their partnership was not merely symbolic. It was a genuine collaboration, built on trust, respect, and mutual admiration. One day, while walking through a floating orchard, Ethan observed a group of Zither citizens struggling to coordinate an energy transfer. The process was vital for maintaining the balance of the city's floating platforms, but the humans' method of step-by-step problem-solving offered a fresh approach. Ethan offered guidance, explaining how small incremental adjustments could prevent larger issues. The Zitherans listened, applying his suggestions, and the system stabilized. Liara watched from nearby, her eyes reflecting pride and amusement. You continue to show us that humans are capable of remarkable insight. You do not simply follow, you think, adapt, and inspire. Ethan smiled. I just try to help. That's what humans do, we try to make things work. As the weeks turned into months, Ethan realized that his presence on Zithera had far-reaching effects. Humans were no longer seen as merely explorers or visitors. His contributions demonstrated that humanity could offer creativity, problem-solving, and collaboration that even advanced civilizations valued. Yet, he knew that challenges were far from over. Each day brought new situations that tested his ingenuity, patience, and understanding. Diplomacy was a delicate balance, and the stakes were high. A single misstep could undermine trust or provoke tension. But Ethan embraced the responsibility, confident that his human qualities, adaptability, curiosity, and empathy, were not weaknesses but strengths. At night, Ethan often sat on the balcony with Liara, gazing at the twin moons of Zithera. He reflected on his journey, from the accidental binding to his growing role in the palace. He had come to understand that diplomacy was more than negotiation. It was listening, observing, and finding ways to bridge differences. Humans, he realized, had a unique talent for this, rooted in resilience and creativity. "You have changed the perception of humans," Liara said one evening, her voice quiet but steady. "You are no longer a visitor, you are a part of our world. And in doing so, you have changed it." Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced doubt, misunderstanding, and the unknown, yet he had found a place where his abilities mattered. The accidental marriage, once a source of panic, had become a bridge between worlds, a connection that allowed humans and Zitherans to learn from one another. As he watched the floating lights of the city shimmer beneath the moons, Ethan knew that his journey was far from over. Challenges would continue to come, testing his wisdom, creativity, and courage. But he was ready. He had learned that humans were capable of extraordinary things, not through strength or speed, but through ingenuity, empathy, and the willingness to face the unknown. And so, Ethan Cross, human consort of Queen Liara, prepared to navigate the intricate web of diplomacy and culture, knowing that each challenge was an opportunity to prove that humanity could thrive among the stars, and that even a single human could inspire a civilization to see the universe in a new way. Ethan Cross had grown comfortable in his role as Queen Liara's consort. He had learned to navigate Zitharan culture, contribute to their council, and gain the trust of many citizens. Yet, he knew that his greatest test had not yet come. Civilization, no matter how advanced, faced challenges that could not always be predicted or solved through routine procedures. Ethan was about to discover that humans could bring something unique to even the most advanced world, a spark of ingenuity that could save a planet. It began one morning when the palace alarm systems, subtle, harmonic vibrations in the energy fields, began to fluctuate. Ethan, who had spent weeks studying the energy networks of Zithra, noticed the pattern immediately. "Liara," he said, pointing to the readings displayed on the floating monitors, "the solar flux is rising faster than usual. If it reaches critical levels, it could destabilize the energy grid across the floating cities." Liara's eyes widened, a flicker of concern passing over her usually serene face. "A solar flare of this magnitude is rare. Our systems are advanced, but we cannot predict every variable. We must act quickly." Ethan swallowed, realizing the magnitude of the situation. On Earth, humans had faced storms, earthquakes, and technological failures, and they had learned to respond quickly, relying on observation, adaptation, and ingenuity. Now, that experience could help Zithra. He gathered Taryn, Vera, and a team of engineers in the palace's central control chamber. They worked together, analyzing data streams and energy projections. Zitharan systems were elegant but intricate, and the rapid changes in solar activity threatened to overwhelm them. Ethan studied the fluctuations carefully. "We need a buffer system," he explained. "On Earth, we use surge protectors and feedback loops to manage sudden spikes. If we adapt that principle to your energy fields, we can stabilize the network without shutting down entire districts." Taryn's skin shifted to a bright teal, a sign of cautious optimism. "It is unconventional, but your idea is sound. Let us attempt it." The team moved quickly. Ethan guided them, drawing on his Earth knowledge while learning from Zitharan methods. They implemented temporary stabilization nodes, rerouted energy flows, and monitored fluctuations in real time. Every decision required precision, creativity, and teamwork. Hours passed, and the tension in the control chamber grew. Even Liara's usually calm presence was marked by subtle pulses of concern that Ethan could feel through their energy link. "Steady," Ethan said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "We can do this." Humans find solutions under pressure all the time. As the solar flare approached, the energy grid began to respond to their adjustments. Nodes stabilized, energy flowed more evenly, and the floating cities remained secure. The crisis was not over, but the immediate threat had been mitigated. Zitharan engineers looked at Ethan with newfound respect, acknowledging that the human's perspective had made a real difference. Later, In the Grand Council chamber, Liara addressed the leaders. Thanks to Ethan's insight, we averted what could have been a disaster. It reminds us that perspective matters and that collaboration across worlds can strengthen us all. Ethan felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had not acted alone. The engineers, advisors, and Liara herself had been crucial. Yet he understood that his human ability to think differently had provided the edge they needed. In the days that followed, the incident became a topic of discussion across XTRA. Citizens spoke of the human consort who had helped protect their cities. Scholars analyzed the methods, curious about Earth's techniques and how they could complement XTRAN systems. Ethan's presence was no longer seen as accidental or symbolic. It was valuable, practical, and inspiring. Amid the professional success, Ethan also experienced personal growth. He began to understand the subtle complexities of XTRAN society, the way decisions balanced logic with emotion, innovation with tradition. He learned that human strength lay not in overpowering challenges, but in observing, adapting, and collaborating. This realization deepened his connection with Liara, who often guided him through difficult choices with patience and encouragement. One evening, while observing the city from a balcony, Ethan noticed a young XTRAN girl experimenting with energy streams in the floating gardens. She struggled to stabilize a small device, her frustration evident. "May I?" Ethan asked gently, approaching her. The girl nodded, her glowing skin flickering nervously. Ethan guided her hands, showing a simple adjustment to balance the energy. Within moments, the device stabilized and the girl's face lit up with joy. "Humans have different ways of thinking," she said, her voice full of awe. "I never thought of it like that," Ethan smiled. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the one you haven't tried yet. Humans call it learning by doing." Liara appeared beside him, observing the interaction. Her skin shimmered softly with approval. "You inspire even the youngest among us. That is the true advantage of humanity. Not power, not speed, but the ability to see possibilities where others see problems." As weeks passed, Ethan continued to work on projects that blended human methods with XTRAN technology. They improved energy distribution, optimized transportation systems, and even developed new communication protocols. Each success reinforced the idea that humans and XTRANs could learn from one another in ways neither species could achieve alone. However, not all challenges were technical. Diplomacy remained delicate. Other star systems watched XTRA closely, curious about the human consort and the influence he wielded. Some envied the partnership, while others doubted Earth's ability to contribute meaningfully to interstellar politics. Ethan understood that he had to navigate these perceptions carefully, demonstrating respect, wisdom, and humility. One day, a delegation from a distant system arrived unexpectedly. They questioned XTRA's leadership, hinting that relying on a human consort could be risky. Ethan accompanied Liara to meet them in the palace council chamber. The room shimmered with energy, and the delegates' expressions were cautious, even skeptical. Ethan spoke calmly and confidently. "Humans have always faced uncertainty. Our strength lies in observation, learning, and adaptation. On Earth, we solve problems not just by following rules, but by thinking creatively, collaborating, and taking responsibility. I offer the same approach here, in partnership with Queen Liara and the people of XTRA." The delegates exchanged glances, impressed by his poise and clarity. They questioned him further, testing his knowledge of interstellar politics, ethics, and strategy. Ethan answered honestly, relying on principles humans had developed over millennia: curiosity, empathy, and innovation. By the end of the meeting, the delegates had shifted their stance, acknowledging that humans could bring valuable insights to interstellar diplomacy. Liara watched with quiet pride. After the delegates departed, she spoke softly. "You demonstrate that humanity's greatest strength is not in domination, but in contribution. You show us that even one human can make a difference in a vast universe." Ethan felt a deep sense of purpose. The accidental marriage that had once seemed like a mistake had become a bridge between worlds. Humans were no longer mere observers. They were participants, collaborators, and innovators. Yet, Ethan also knew that challenges would continue. Life on Xithera was dynamic and unpredictable. Natural phenomena, political shifts, and cultural differences would test him constantly. But he had learned that humans' greatest advantage was their ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to approach problems with both intelligence and heart. One evening, Ethan and Liara stood together on the palace balcony, overlooking the glowing rivers of Xithera. The twin moons cast silver light across the floating cities, illuminating patterns of energy that shimmered like liquid stars. "You have changed not just how humans are seen," Liara said, her voice gentle, "but how we see ourselves. You remind us that even in an advanced civilization, there is always room for new ideas, for creativity, for growth." Ethan looked out at the city, feeling a sense of wonder and responsibility. "I never imagined that humans could have such an impact here. But now I see that we can, if we try and learn from those around us." Liara reached for his hand, and Ethan felt the energy connection pulse softly between them. It was a quiet affirmation of trust, respect, and partnership. Together, they had faced danger, uncertainty, and doubt. And together, they had shown that two very different worlds could collaborate to achieve something extraordinary. In the following weeks, Ethan continued to apply his unique perspective to new challenges. He worked with engineers to enhance transportation systems, assisted diplomats in negotiating complex treaties, and guided scholars in integrating human problem-solving into Xytheran research. Every success reinforced the growing respect for humans, demonstrating that intelligence, creativity, and courage were universal qualities. Ethan realized that his journey on Xythera was not just about survival or adaptation. It was about showing the galaxy the potential of humanity. Humans had something to offer that no advanced civilization could ignore: the ability to think differently, to inspire, and to create solutions in ways that transcended technology alone. By the time the twin suns set one evening, Ethan stood with Liara, watching the city shimmer beneath the moons. The solar crisis had passed, diplomacy had strengthened, and the citizens of Xythera were beginning to see humans in a new light. And as he looked at the glowing horizon, Ethan understood something profound. Humanity's advantage was not in conquest or power, but in ingenuity, resilience, and heart. That advantage had saved Xythera, built bridges across worlds, and transformed his life in ways he could never have imagined. He was no longer just an accidental consort. He was a human whose presence mattered, a bridge between two worlds, and a symbol of what humanity could achieve among the stars. Ethan Cross had spent months on Xythera, learning, adapting, and growing alongside Queen Liara. From the moment he had accidentally performed the binding, his life had transformed in ways he could never have imagined. He had faced skepticism, solved crises, and helped bridge the gap between two civilizations. Yet he sensed that the greatest test of his human ingenuity and his place in the galaxy was still ahead. It began with an unusual energy reading. Xythera's sensors detected an anomaly in the solar system. A massive cosmic storm was approaching, one that could disrupt the energy grids of all the floating cities. Scientists and engineers scrambled, analyzing the data and calculating possible outcomes. The threat was unprecedented in Xytheran history. Ethan was summoned to the council chamber along with Liara, Taryn, and other key advisors. The room shimmered with the soft hum of energy fields, displaying the storm's trajectory in vivid light. Xytheran leaders discussed protocols and contingency plans, but the human consort noticed something they did not. "The storm is irregular," Ethan said, pointing to the patterns on the monitor. The energy pulses are unpredictable. Standard procedures may not be enough. We need a dynamic solution, something flexible that can adapt in real time. Liara nodded thoughtfully. Go on. We trust your insight. Ethan proposed a strategy that combined Zitharan technology with Earth-style adaptive systems. Using mobile energy nodes and feedback loops, they could anticipate the fluctuations and stabilize the cities. It was risky. If even a single node failed, it could trigger chain reactions, but the council had little choice. They agreed to try Ethan's approach. For the next several days, Ethan worked tirelessly alongside Terran, engineers, and other advisors. He coordinated operations, made split-second decisions, and adapted strategies as new information came in. His human perspective, which emphasized observation, experimentation, and rapid adaptation, became crucial. Zitharan systems were advanced, but they had not been designed for this kind of unpredictability. Meanwhile, Liara remained by his side, offering guidance and support. The energy link between them allowed subtle communication in moments of stress, a quiet reassurance that they were in this together. Ethan felt a profound sense of connection, not just with Liara, but with the entire planet he had come to care for deeply. As the storm approached, the skies above Zithara glowed with eerie colors, reflecting the immense energy surging toward the planet. Citizens watched anxiously from floating balconies and observation platforms. Ethan could feel the tension in the city, the collective awareness of the coming challenge. Remember, Liara said softly, placing a hand on his arm, humans solve problems by thinking creatively and staying calm under pressure. That is your strength. Trust yourself. Ethan nodded, taking a deep breath. He relied on every lesson he had learned since arriving on Zithara, the nuances of Zitharan technology, the culture of collaboration, and the human ability to see possibilities where others saw obstacles. The first waves of the storm struck the outer floating districts. Energy nodes fluctuated, but the adaptive systems Ethan had helped implement responded quickly. Feedback loops adjusted the energy flows in real time, stabilizing the platforms. Citizens watched in awe as the floating city swayed but did not collapse, a testament to human ingenuity and Zitharan technology working together. Hours passed, each moment a test of skill and courage. Ethan coordinated efforts from the central control chamber, guiding engineers and advisors with calm precision. He anticipated problems before they arose, suggesting minor adjustments that prevented larger failures. By combining Earth problem-solving techniques with Zitharan innovation, he turned a potential catastrophe into a controlled challenge. Finally, the storm began to subside. The energy grid stabilized, the floating cities held their positions, and Zithara had survived. A wave of relief swept through the population. Citizens cheered, engineers celebrated, and even skeptical council members acknowledged the critical role of the human consort in averting disaster. Liara approached Ethan in the central chamber, her eyes glowing with pride. "You have done more than save our cities," she said softly. "You have shown us the true value of humanity, creativity, courage, and the ability to adapt. You are not just a consort, you are a partner, a bridge between worlds." Ethan felt a mixture of pride, relief, and humility. "I only did what humans do best: observe, learn, and act. The credit belongs to everyone who worked with me. But thank you, Liara. Your trust made this possible." The days following the storm were filled with reflection and celebration. Zitharan studied the methods Ethan had applied, eager to integrate human problem-solving into their own systems. Scholars wrote papers analyzing his approach, and engineers developed new protocols inspired by Earth techniques. Ethan realized that his presence had permanently influenced Zitharan society, proving that humans could contribute in meaningful, lasting ways. At the same time, he focused on strengthening diplomatic ties with other star systems. The successful management of the cosmic storm had demonstrated Zithra's resilience and adaptability, and human ingenuity was recognized as a valuable asset. Delegations from neighboring planets sought guidance, eager to learn from the combined human-Zithran approach. Amid these achievements, Ethan and Liara also nurtured their personal connection. The energy link between them had grown deeper, allowing silent communication of thoughts, emotions, and intuition. They shared quiet moments on balconies overlooking glowing cities, discussing strategies, culture, and even dreams for the future. Their partnership had evolved from an accidental marriage to a true collaboration, one based on respect, trust, and mutual admiration. One evening, Ethan stood in the floating gardens with Liara, observing the soft glow of the twin moons reflecting on luminescent flowers. Citizens drifted below on energy bridges, unaware of the subtle ripples of energy stabilizing their pathways, a silent reminder of the storm they had survived. "You've changed Zithra forever," Liara said, her voice gentle. "Not only in technology and diplomacy, but in how we see ourselves. You've reminded us that even in a civilization as advanced as ours, there is always room for new ideas, creativity, and growth." Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I came here by accident," he said, "but I've learned that humans have something unique to offer. Adaptability, courage, creativity. Even a single human can make a difference in ways that matter." Liara reached for his hand, and the energy connection between them pulsed softly, a shared acknowledgement of partnership and trust. "Then let us continue together," she said. "Humans and Zitharans, side by side, shaping the future." In the weeks that followed, Ethan helped establish new programs for interstellar collaboration. Education initiatives allowed Zitharan students to learn from human problem-solving techniques, while Earth received insights into advanced Zitharan technology. Together, they built bridges, both literal and metaphorical, between their worlds. The palace became a hub of innovation. Engineers and scholars worked together, blending the best of human ingenuity with Zitharan sophistication. Diplomatic councils became more inclusive, incorporating perspectives from multiple worlds. And at the heart of it all was Ethan, a human who had arrived by accident but had proven that one person, when willing to learn and act with courage, could change the course of history. Even ordinary moments felt extraordinary. Ethan helped Zitharan children learn about Earth, told stories of human culture, and encouraged curiosity and creativity. Citizens often paused to watch him work alongside Liara, seeing that humanity had a place not just on their planet, but in their hearts and minds. One day, Ethan stood on the palace balcony, looking out at the glowing rivers of Zithra. The twin moons reflected on the floating cities, creating a scene of breathtaking beauty. He felt a profound sense of belonging. He was no longer just an explorer, an accidental consort, or a visitor. He was a part of Zithra, a symbol of human potential and a bridge between worlds. Liara joined him, her presence serene and reassuring. "What we have accomplished together is only the beginning," she said. "Humanity has shown that it can rise to the challenges of the galaxy, and Zithra will continue to grow alongside you." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and the excitement of possibility. "I never imagined my life would change like this," he said. "But now I see that humanity can contribute in ways we never imagined. We can explore, create, and inspire, together with others." As they stood in quiet reflection, Ethan realized that the accidental marriage that had once seemed like a mistake had become a defining moment in both their lives. It had opened doors, built bridges, and demonstrated the true potential of humanity. Through courage, creativity, and collaboration, humans could thrive among the stars and even inspire entire civilizations to see the universe in a new light. In that moment, Ethan Cross understood something extraordinary. His life and humanity itself had changed forever. He had arrived on Zithra as a visitor, uncertain and unprepared. He had faced challenges, solved crises, and earned respect. And now, standing beside Queen Liara, he knew that this was only the beginning of a new era, a future where humans and Zithrans would explore, innovate, and grow together. The sky above shimmered with energy, the floating cities pulsed with light, and the twin moons cast their glow across the planet. Ethan felt a deep sense of pride and wonder. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors, but as partners, innovators, and friends. And in this partnership, the universe itself seemed to open new possibilities. Together, Ethan and Liara turned toward the horizon, ready to face whatever challenges and adventures awaited them. Their bond was no longer accidental, it was deliberate, strong, and full of promise. And in their collaboration, two worlds found a shared future, a brighter path, and a story that would be remembered for generations to come. Ethan realized with a smile that his world and the galaxy would never be the same.